This Nintendo fanboy Harman Smith thinks emulators should be illegal. Let's find out why.
So, a lot of people notified me to let me know that Valve officially promoted Yuzu on a Steam Deck video. It seems they know their audience. They know the only reason people are buying this shit is so they can emulate Nintendo games on a superior machine.
Okay, so why did you do the air quotes when you said superior machine? When we compare the stats, it is a superior machine. The Steam Deck has access to more Nintendo games than the Nintendo Switch does. For example, I recently emulated Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, a fantastic game by the way. That game released nearly 2 decades ago, and Nintendo cannot make money from that game anymore. Now, by your logic, I should have done this the official way, but the official way for me to get this game would have been to go on eBay, buy a GameCube for this price, which that price isn't too expensive, I'll be fair, but the price for the video game alone is $100 for a functional version of Paper Mario.
You serious?
Most people are not going to do that, and they're just going to emulate the game, unless they're some kind of retro collector. And in terms of performance, sure, the Switch has the OLED screen, and sure, it has a better battery life than the Steam Deck, but overall, the Steam Deck can consistently hit 60 frames on more games than the Nintendo Switch can. And sure, I understand some people just bought the Steam Deck for the sake of emulating Nintendo games. However, I think most of them bought it so they could have their Steam library on the go.
But before I can make a video talking about this, before I could talk about like the potential lawsuits that could open up and the things that might go down, Valve removed the video entirely, and I'm not sure if they've re-uploaded it to edit it, but it is down, and it's safe to say that is the reason why, because they did not want a legally questionable aspect of Steam Deck available as a promotional tool.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Yuzu emulator is not illegal in any way, shape, or form. Valve probably took it down because Nintendo has been reading about emulators for the past 10 to 15 years. Another reason is they want to stay in good standing with Nintendo should Nintendo decide to port their games to Steam eventually. Thing is, I don't get why Nintendo chose to bother Steam about this, because it's not going to stop people from downloading the ROMs and emulating their games. Nintendo could spend all their money and efforts going after ROMs and emulator sites, but at the end of the day, every time Nintendo chooses to take down a ROM site, 3 more pop up in its place. Nintendo is never going to get rid of ROMs and emulators, and people like you need to accept that.
If Valve theoretically managed to upset Nintendo enough to like file a lawsuit and really get them to challenge the notion of emulation, to really go after them and really kind of talk about like make it understood that like piracy is a crime, right, in the legal world, and start like going after them, I think PC gaming would like collapse overnight.
Hey y'all, come look at this.
Okay, that's the dumbest shit I've heard this year, so congrats on that. Oh shit. PC gaming would not collapse just because emulators and ROMs got taken down. This may come as a shock to you, but there are people who play on PC that don't or rarely ever emulate games. Like me, I didn't emulate any games on PC until 2 years after I built my first PC. People like the open market of PC, not having to pay for online, more sales, and another reason people might come over to PC is the freedom of choice. You don't just have to use Steam. You could use Game Pass, you could use Epic, God forbid, or you could use GOG. So if you don't like one platform, you can always check out the other platforms. Unlike Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony, if you don't like the platform you're on, you're gonna have to buy another plastic box. In a hypothetical sense, if Nintendo did manage to take down emulators, it wouldn't change much, and these sites would just go underground and stay under the radar. Hate to break it to you, Harman Smith, but emulators are here to stay until the end of time, whether you like it or not.
The only reason anyone really defends PC gaming like is because it can allegedly play every Nintendo game that exists, which isn't actually true. But
so you're not going to name any examples? Okay, well, let's keep going.
It is it's a narrative that's kind of taken hold of like the online gaming sphere. Like it's such a deep rooted, it's such a meme that people legitimately think it's true, right? And now it seems like Valve is trying to like cash in on that and try to like it's the only reason the Steam Deck was ever viable, right? Well, was ever got any kind of traction at all, right, in the online discourse, is because so many people assumed they would just be able to get Yuzu on there and they'd be able to play Switch games like it was a Switch, but that's not how it played. That's not how it plays out at all, right?
Harman, you can run Switch games on a Steam Deck. I have Yuzu on my Steam Deck, and while emulating more demanding games like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 would be better suited on a more powerful desktop, the game still runs fine on the Steam Deck. And you think Valve is trying to cash in on this narrative, but Valve sold that Steam Deck at a loss. The reason Valve sold a Steam Deck at a loss is because if they made it the price of a console, is because they lowered the bar of entry into PC gaming. It's only $400 for the cheapest version of the Steam Deck, and because of the price, there were more people willing to dip their feet into PC gaming. And Valve would make that money they lost back by getting a bunch of people into the platform since they lowered the bar of entry.
But like for Valve to promote Yuzu in a Valve Steam Deck video, that's not a good look for them. It's really not. And I do think that a big reason why Nintendo has not taken action against Yuzu is that they want to shut them down like completely, right? They want like an ironclad case. They want to it's not enough to just shut down Yuzu. Like they need to set it up where they can just go after anyone who puts together like an emulator, period. Because there's like no reason to have them, like really.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
You are wrong, Harman Smith. There are very good reasons to have emulators. The first one is game preservation. Game companies don't care too much about game preservation because they want to resell the game to you 5 or 10 years down the road. Without these ROM sites that have old games that you can't get officially or that Nintendo doesn't make money off of anymore, you would never be able to play these games again. Also, if these sites didn't exist, you would be at the mercy of these game companies and hope they re-release the game you want to play. Like in the case earlier with Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, I think Nintendo's trying to forget about that game because they haven't re-released it or nothing. And another reason for these emulators to exist is these game companies don't care about backwards compatibility. These companies care more about reselling you the same game you've already bought every console generation. Were it not for game preservation, some of these classics that we've all enjoyed would be lost to the sands of time. And that's what I don't get about Nintendo. They know there's a market on PC for your games. Why not create your own platform on PC and sell your games that way? Or, if it's easier for you, just port your games to the platforms that already exist on PC. That way you can cut down on the people pirating and emulating their games. And don't get me wrong, there are still going to be people who pirate and emulate Nintendo games even if they were to do that, but the amount of people would decrease dramatically. And by your logic, Super Mario 3D All-Stars shouldn't exist either. Those were 3 games marked up at $20 that were also on emulators, which ironically run worse than the emulators you can get for free online. Then they had the nerve to set a deadline to stop selling the game, but I bet you would love to damage control that, wouldn't you, Nintendo fanboy?
I'm curious just how much longer this can go on, because it's clear there's becoming an increasing backlash among Nintendo fans for like having to deal with like steampunks like insisting they're just emulating everything on their Steam Decks, which isn't actually true. I've had to deal with that.
Harman Smith, I've been in your comment section. I don't see people insisting that they can emulate Nintendo games. I'm not denying that those people are out there, but the odds are they're just saying that to mess with you. Because you seem to rage about the thought that people can play the same games you do on a different platform.
We need to cut down on that. Like these people are never going to admit they're not actually playing video games, and they just kind of sit there and just do nothing. Like we need to like make emulators like straight up illegal. And I am optimistic that Nintendo will eventually make that happen.
Wow, he just ended the video right there. What if I just ended the video?